Imagine yourself as a young woman about 16 or 17 years old. Your parents were separated earlier on in your life, probably in your childhood. Due to this, your daddy never really had an emotional connection with you. So therefore, he decided, why start now? Your mother, she's not any better. She brings home a different guy every weekend night, and they don't care anything about you. And she expects you to be a mature adult about the whole situation. Easy breezy, right? Wrong. What mom and dad don't realize is that you have this empty hole deep within you, and it's just growing and growing. All you want is somebody to care about you, and you're willing to do just about anything for that. What a lot of women turn to in this position, I believe, is prostitution. I can personally vouch for the empty hole. Maybe not to the degrade of the example that I just gave, but I can confidently say that there's not enough dirt in the world to fill that kind of hole. I can't even imagine what a young girl would be going through. Maybe not all, but some. Seen a girl on TV and she'd been doing obscene gestures and sticking her tongue out provocatively, and everyone nudge her buddy's elbow and will say, that girl right there's got some real daddy issues. Even though that statement was implied as a joke, doesn't mean that it's any less true. We go about our day looking at Starry Night paintings by Vincent van Gogh without really reading into what the paintings are about. We just think, oh, a bunch of squiggly lines, big deal. Well, it actually is a big deal. Every single person has their own specific story. Some are fortunate and blessed with family and loved ones, while others are constantly seeking that love and affection. Unfortunately, these said women, they're so heart set on finding it that instead of it nurturing them, it can totally destroy them. Due to the lack of love and guidance from particularly a father figure, creates a searching component in a girl's psychological state of mind. There are several practices that a young girl indulges in order to fulfill that searching desire. The reason I say indulge is because these attempts are meant to satisfy them. Now there's a replacement practice, self-gratification, but probably the most common is the coping mechanism. During an interview on creating cooperative kids with Kean Jacobs, a clinical social worker who mastered in clinical social work at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts, she said that all children in a parentless environment will find a way to cope and defend themselves. Now, without the means of a father, a young child uses their not yet fully developed brain to apply what they think are rational choices to mend what is broken. Jacobs continues by saying, as adults, their emotions are stuck at the ages of 7 through 10 in regards to the way that they react to things. Now, a father plays a big role in a daughter's life. He teaches her how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Without the presence of a father, the daughter is forced to draw the image of Prince Charming in her head without really knowing what Prince Charming is. As time goes on and the girl gets older, she grows up with this inaccurate description of a man, and she finds herself in a position that she thinks is outstanding, but instead it's not really that good. It's far from it. The other practice is replacement. The act of replacing the father who's not there. In the same interview on Creating Cooperative Kids, a woman by the name of Battelle Arnold, who is a experienced or first-hand experienced being a fatherless daughter. And she remembers her earliest memory as running home to her mother and saying, "Mama, Mama, I found my daddy." And her mother, knowing that Battelle's daddy is nowhere around, is shocked when Battelle says, "Mama, my daddy's my math teacher." Jacobs explains this predicament pretty well in one sentence. She says, "Everybody else's life with two parents looks like a Hallmark card. A kid can feel lost." What Battelle was doing was she was taking any role model that she felt was exceptional and she was placing them in the position to fill the hole of a fatherless life. No pressure, right? No pressure. Jacobs continues by saying, a girl is so easily influenced, a young girl, she's so easily influenced and loved that this is a very dangerous place for her to be. What I believe Jacobs was trying to say was, without offending anybody, is that with a girl's state of mind, it's so easy for her to fall through the cracks into a position, a sexual seeking position, that it would easily lead into prostitution. Now, self-gratification. Self-gratification, I believe, is something that every individual deals with, whether you have two parents or none. However, a parent's role in a child's life is to make sure that their child feels as if they are perfect and nothing less. Now, if my theory about self-gratification is correct, that means that every individual deals with self-gratification to an extent, even if they have parents. Which means that if they don't have parents, that they deserve to be on a whole other level. Battelle has another flashback during the interview about the moment where she actually finally met her father. And she decided that she was going to stay with her father for a while. Battelle quickly learns that her father has been remarried and had a new child. Battelle explains her emotions as if she felt that she wasn't good enough. In order for yourself to feel worthy, it's necessary to accomplish what you feel is important. If a young girl doesn't feel good enough by the one man she should feel it from, it is evident that she will seek instant gratification from another man. This is where the problem occurs. The prostitution industry is filled with men who not only want women for their bodies, but they're throwing money at them for it too. And considering my earlier statement about a not so rational state of mind to a young girl, that might sound like a pretty good idea. I mean, who doesn't want you throwing money at you? Golly. A fatherless daughter is constantly walking on coals and doesn't even realize it. Before she knows it, her feet are going to be calloused and she's going to have no reason to look down. She's going to go through replacement, self-gratification, and coping mechanisms her whole life. And she's not going to have any question, not have any reason to question it. Until one day, she wakes up, it's 10 years later, and she's still got that massive hole. The only thing that's changed is she has a little bit more freedom and a little bit more resources. Resources that do more harm than good. A study in the Journal of Psychoactive Drugs researched and surveyed 200 prostitutes. The prostitutes 55% said that they were drug addicts before they entered their, said career. 30% said that they had nothing to do with drugs before they entered their career. Nothing to do with drugs. Drugs were not impacting their state of mind, their choices. They just went on in. Researchers from an unknown source concluded that young women are more likely to become depressed than boys. The research also stated that if a woman were to, obtain a drug addiction, they are more likely to succumb to risky sex acts. Although a large percentage of sexually active women on the streets are driven by drug abuse, that doesn't mean that all women have the same problem. The other 30% I also spoke of must have had another reason to enter the field if drugs weren't controlling their choices. Perhaps after realizing that something as searching for an accepting male figure couldn't be done through provocative actions, the depression took the reins, and drugs then were the only coping mechanism. Again, with the coping mechanism. It appears drug abuse is nearly inevitable for women who have been victimized by negligence and sexual assault. Whether they start their addiction before their journey into prostitution or after, the end result is always the same. Unfortunately, many women a year don't make it out because of their mind-controlling addictions. But by some miraculous work of God, some do survive. There's thousands of women's shelters in the United States funded by none other than our country's government. These shelters are set up to protect and help women so that they can restart their lives. Not only do shelters accommodate women on a place to stay, but they also provide mental support so that women can, support and accept their equality. Not only do unfortunately, the time allowed to stay at a women's shelter is limited due to the high demand of women in need. However, while staying, the shelter offers finding a permanent home and a job. Even though a place to go is nice and helpful, it's evident that women need more than that to be healthy. Women need commitment, women need faith, hope, understanding, but most of all, women need love. Shelters take these women's problems very seriously. So they provide master's level therapists to coach the women in their healing process. For example, they understand just because of their victimization doesn't make them mentally ill, but instead in traumatic shock. I mean, who wouldn't be in traumatic shock given this certain scenario? Luckily for women, everywhere there is an escape plan that can be issued when in a threatening situation. But like many plans, women's shelters are designed and proven to work. We can't expect young women to make lawful decisions when their undeveloped mind has been mistreated and tampered with. Women are strong. It doesn't take a statistical survey to understand that. But like anything, women have their weaknesses. Women are powered by love. They need it, and they deserve it.